Have you looked at the work of Weston A. Price?
Yeah, I have.
Amazing. So this always comes into my mind, especially I study psychology. So the nature versus nurture, right? When it comes to our genes, now there's a lot of people who are dark skinned, dark eyes, dark hair, and then there's people like you that are fair eye, fair skin, and fair hair. Now that's the gene, and that's our nature about ourselves. And what Weston A. Price kind of understood was that as we went up into the northern poles, onto the latitudes of Earth, people were eating more fat, and their mitochondria and their bodies were actually highly functioning in ketosis. And the closer that we were at the equator, people were running off carbohydrates and were darker skinned. So is that now, as let's say a black person living up in New York, are they at a mismatch in their latitude, and is that going to affect their health to where they need to move back to a place where they have more sun to optimize their health, and vice versa? Maybe a person living in Ecuador, and they're very fair skinned, should they be moving up into a higher latitude for their health?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So to kind of understand this topic, you kind of need to understand or have a little bit of a background in haplotypes. So basically, we know that we inherit our mitochondria from our mothers, which means that we're more adapted to live where our female ancestral lineage is from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we actually can inherit it from our dad as well, but it's like 0.01% chance that that's going to happen. And I have a sneaky suspicion that if the mitochondria of the mother is quite unwell, that our body will actually opt out for dads. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't read any literature on that. I don't think there is any, but that's like a sneaky suspicion I have. So I'm wondering if in today's environment, if we're actually inheriting more mitochondria from our dad. I'm not sure. I'd love to see those studies being done. But so we inherit our mitochondria from our mom, and we've been talking about that throughout this, I guess, podcast quite a bit. And so we're actually inheriting energy production from our mom. And so we're designed, if we are dark skinned, our mitochondria are either coupled or uncoupled to suit that environment. Now, if we're fair skinned, our mitochondria are going to be coupled in a certain way that optimizes us for cold environments. People who have dark skin, their mitochondria is optimized for heat, for their biggest stressor in their environment was like running away from lions. And that's where they can run so fast because their mitochondria are adapted to really help them survive. And
God
so if
damn.
we're someone,
That is
yeah,
hilarious, by the way. That is just funny.
simplicity sometimes is the truth.
Yeah,
We kind of tend to make things more complex when maybe they don't need to be.
sure.
But if I say if my lineage from Europe, my biggest threat was freezing my ass off every winter. So my
Yeah.
country are like more adapted to make heat, right? They're more
Yeah.
adapted to make heat to give me more energy during the winter so that I have a higher chance of survival. Now, what happened was us people decided that we were going to move to all different regions of the earth. And so now, mitochondria, it's not like I'm just moving from Europe to Australia and my mitochondria are like, oh, I'm in Australia. I'm just going to completely change now to adapt to this environment, which is like they can to a certain extent, but it takes like a long time, like 100,000 years for our biology to actually catch up to where we're living and adapt.
Oh,
And so what happened was, let's look at me. My ancestry is from my mitochondrial haplotype is like an LN6. So I'm from like Western Europe and Ireland and things like this.
mhm.
So I came to Australia, or my parents and grandparents came to Australia, and my dad's lineage is Aboriginal. So now
Yeah.
I'm kind of like this European who has my mitochondria are from Europe, so they're adapted for cold. But now I have this olive skin and these green eyes from my Aboriginal heritage. So I've got like this mismatch. It's like I took an
Wow.
engine from a Ford and then I went and put it in like a Honda. And so it looks like a Honda, but the engine is actually a Ford.
Oh my
And so
god.
that's kind of, yeah, that's what's happening. And so in my circumstances, that's actually a good thing because
Okay.
now I have more melanin in my skin. So the darker your
Wow.
skin and the darker your eyes. So if you have dark eyes, it's actually because they have more melanin in them. So they can absorb more light.
Mhm.
Well, not absorb more light, but reflect more light. Because we know that melanin like reflects, refracts, and absorbs light. Whereas like for like let's say you or anyone else who's from Europe, who's still in Europe, their light is fair so they can let in more light because their body is
Mm,
needing it and craving it.
mm.
Um, so that's one aspect of it. Now, in terms of the question you asked, is it going to impact your health if, let's say, you're African and you move to, like, let's say, the UK? 100%. I have so many clients that are really struggling with their health. Um, they're actually Indian. They just moved to the UK probably 2 generations ago, and their family is absolutely riddled with chronic disease.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's so interesting to look back through the different diagnosis in their family, and it all relates directly to the mismatch in their haplotype because they're not getting the sun that they need to thrive. And their
Wow.
mitochondria are just not adapted to their environment. So, yeah, it can in fact impact your health. And I mean, just thinking, it's like maybe we were never supposed to move to different countries. Maybe it's, my grandmother always spoke about it as in there's worlds within worlds. So each country is like a different world, and we should never
Yeah.
have crossed a certain line. And unfortunately, we haven't. And now we're all this mismatched mitochondria living all over the world, and it's probably not doing the best things for our health.
Interesting. So, guys, if you're living in an area where your history wasn't born, potentially you could be suffering from diseases that is causing that. That is awesome to know.
If you believe more constructive information like this should be out there for people to know, please leave a like on this video. And if you're a person who's into self-development in all aspects of their life, please subscribe, because that is what we do here at Good Demand. Keep demanding good things. And if you haven't bought a pair of our Good Night Blue Blockers and you use a phone at night or an iPad or TV at night, please consider buying a pair of these. They're beautiful and they work so well and they help support our growth.